Yeah. We're about to get started, so if everyone wants to find a seat, and if you don't find a seat, there's still chairs on the rack.
Yes.
Yeah, most people see it. That's cool. Welcome to DenverScript. Who's a first timer? Nice. Well, welcome. So these events are not, if you're wondering how we get free pizza, booze, and a venue and education, it's because we have sponsors. So Code Talent is sponsoring the venue. If that doesn't make sense, you're in it right now. So Code Talent is a very good recruiting agency because they actually understand the difference between Java and JavaScript. They actually just got me hired at somewhere else, and we hired like 2 more people from them. So great place if you're looking for new jobs or need to hire for someone. ConnectedFi is sponsoring the food. Yes, a little more gusto. ConnectedFi is actually where I work. We are a very small niche company of 10 people that is a brokerage app for industrial machinery. Come on! It sounds boring as hell, but it's actually really interesting. Epic Brewing, just down the street, they give us a discount on the beer. It's not that big. Discount. Denver Pizza Company is also giving us a discount on pizza. Also brought to you by Front-End Masters. Every month we give away three-month subscriptions, right? So pay attention. You may get one tonight. Cool. This is a part we like to call it what's going on in JavaScript land. So shout out anything that you've seen in the last month or 2 and think it's really freaking cool.
All right.
Material UI 3 came out yesterday.
Man, you are just getting after it. Didn't even finish introducing this segment. That's incredible. Get him on there. You get a Front-End Masters membership. Congratulations. Not even kidding.
I missed it. What was it?
Material design, what?
3 came out yesterday.
Sweet. Awesome. Okay, so the way we normally kick this off, people aren't normally this excited, is to get you guys thinking about what's going on in JavaScript. I normally, whenever there's a new Chrome that comes out with new dev tools, we go over it because that gets me excited. And so let's go through it. So Chrome 68 came out. What we'll do is all of the stuff that's here will drop into the Meetup notes on meetup.com. So don't feel like you have to write all this down or anything if any of it you think is interesting. There's a link to a highlights video, which everything we're going to cover. They have code samples and everything, as well as the release notes. So first thing, they've done a few enhancements to console preview. Eager evaluation is really, really cool. You can see the results of expressions that you type without invoking them. So if you click on a little GIF here, when I get really excited, I make GIFs of it. So see if you can zoom in. So here, enhance. Okay, so here he has, let's let it start over again. It'll restart in a second. So he's got an array there. He's got an array there. He clicks eager evaluation. And now on the array, he types .sort. And before he invokes it, it gives him a preview of what it's going to be. Right? Isn't that cool? So I know, that's amazing. So I don't know. I thought that was super cool. I want to show it to you guys. So to go back to the list, maybe we could also watch it again. But okay. So then similarly, in the console, there's function argument previews now, which is also pretty cool. I didn't do a GIF for this one because you can imagine it. As you're typing any function that's currently in scope, it automatically gives you the same as like how an IDE or something would give you like hints on what the arguments are. The Google DevTools Chrome console does that natively now, which is super cool. Oh, and then this one's also awesome. Autocomplete works on invoked functions in DevTools as well. So for example, if you were to write out like document.querySelector P, right? Without actually invoking it, if you from there put like a dot, all of the autocomplete options for the result of that invoked function will automatically appear for you. So really cool stuff. The audience panel has had an overhaul. There's several things they did, but I think the one that's probably the most applicable to pretty much everybody in the room is that the layout of all these different things like config, throttling, the device that you're on, all that sort of stuff, used to be kind of like hidden in tabs on the top. They have everything now on a nice like new layout page where you just go down and sort of check all the boxes and the things that you want and you just hit run and it's all right there. So if any of those things I went kind of fast on, like I said, there's a video that kind of walks through it. Yeah, so that's what I'm excited about. What are you guys excited about? Anything at all? Broad or specific? Anyone?
Material Design 3 came out.
Hey, that's exciting. Anyone else?
I think Babel 7's
What's that?
Babel 7.
Babel 7?
Wait, is it finally out of RC?
Yeah, I think it's actually
Thank
out.
fucking God. It's a black truck. All right, it's not me.
Careful, a car is being stolen. We should go and find out who's stealing it. All right.
Rush over it. Right.
Right. What's up?
I saw a great talk at Years It's called The Annoying Sites, and it kind of talks about all these old web APIs that you can still use to create a website that would really annoy some sort of spammer. Auto downloading to their downloads folder, spawning windows, moving them around. It's a great talk to kind of see what these APIs can do.
Awesome. If Matt can't track it down, just send us a link with it.
And then at Peruse, it's like FAROUZ.
Okay, sweet.
Wait, say it one more time.
@FAROUZ.
Awesome. What else are you guys excited about?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was listening to syntax and their Gatsby's using Reach with React, and supposedly it's taking the place of Redux with a Gatsby static site generator.
Oh, sweet.
And I have a couple Gatsby projects. I'm pretty excited about learning more about using that.
Awesome. Fantastic.
How do you realize for a static site?
Huh?
How do you need a state controller for a static site? Exactly. I'm just curious, just thinking out loud.
That'll be a great conversation for you guys to have over beers after the meetup's over.
That goes in hashtag topic opinions.
Yeah.
Wait, is anybody part of Denver Devs?
No, sorry. Who's not a part of Denver
Yeah,
Devs?
that's actually.
All right, you guys should be. What you want to?
So go to denverdevs.org and sign up, and that's to get into the Slack channel or the Slack group.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like, how many we got?
It's like 5,000.
Over 5,000 people are in there now.
Yeah.
Which is a great place for getting involved with the community, getting help, like a real-time Stack Overflow. Yeah, definitely should join that.
With like surprisingly like active, helpful people. Like I had to turn off my topic React notifications because people were so helpful. Like people would like post a question and say, with all these different like answers and suggestions. So if you're not on there, you should definitely check it out. Anything else you guys are excited about? Language level, framework? Yeah. Develop Denver is happening. You want to talk about Unplugged a little bit?
Not unplugged.
Why not? It's happening.
Well,
If you're going to miss
next
this,
year.
we'll do it next year.
Oh, actually, the more exciting thing is Develop Denver, the conference tickets went on sale
That's also true.
yesterday.
Yeah.
So has anyone not heard of Develop Denver? Okay. So it's a developer, designer, like if you're in our industry, there's going to be talks for you. This is our 7th year running it. It's usually like a multi-track, like I think we're doing 4 tracks going along, and they'll be down here in the Rhino area. So that is happening October 17th and 18th.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But definitely, we have early bird tickets on sale right now. There is 53 left. That's actually pretty accurate, I think. So please, if you're interested in going and saving yourself a little bit of money, go get an early bird ticket.
Yeah, definitely go and check it out. It's very different than any other conference you may have heard of or been to. Instead of like flying in big speakers from all around the country, it's highly focused on promoting and engaging the Denver community itself. So you'll see like a lot of your colleagues from here might be speaking. You should speak if you have a topic that you think is interesting that you want to give. It's a really, really great community building event that is also deeply tied into Denver Dev. So do both.
So
CFP still open?
it just opened.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, Kyle wrote a bug and we haven't fixed it yet.
But the point is you haven't missed the chance, right?
You haven't missed it yet. It's like just launched.
Yeah, you're either just on time or a little bit too early, but you're not too late.
So stringing along with that is we have kind of like a spin-off event called the Develop Denver Unplugged camping trip. It's actually happening this weekend and we're filled up, but I just at least wanted to announce it so people know like next year, keep an eye out for it because it's just a bunch of nerds going into the woods and drinking.
Yeah.
And having a good time. This is our second year doing it, and it was, what's that?
Try not to set wildfires.
Yeah, no, we actually we're very responsible in that part. Awesome. Anything else, Phil, want to talk about?
Yeah.
Node.js and HTTP2, pretty cool.
Oh, so what about it?
Stream, it's like a 1 or 2 way channel.
But so like, was it, did it just get added to Node or is you just came across and you're excited about it?
They kind of like
Sweet.
Do you have to turn on a feature flag for that? No? All right.
Either way, it's exciting. Right. Anyone else? Okay, so as I mentioned, you got a front-end master's trial membership. So what Matt was alluding to before, every month we give out 3 different trial memberships for 3 months to front-end masters. They've been kind enough to give us those to give away. They're a great site that has all kinds of topics from introductory topics to different languages and frameworks to very advanced deep dives. And the average length of their lessons is like 10 or 14 hours or something. They go really, really deep on those topics. Each month costs about like $30. So these giveaways are about $100 worth of value. So for everybody else that submitted stuff, stick around to the end and come up here and we'll randomly select 2 more. And then you guys will also get front-end masters trial memberships. For those of you that didn't participate this time, come with anything at all you're excited about next time. We don't have any kind of like qualifications of like, that wasn't good enough. Like anything at all. And then you might get a membership to this cool thing. So yeah, thanks guys.
Oh. Nice. Next, the last part is right before we get into the talks is job announcements. Does anybody have any jobs they'd like to announce?
We are hiring, there's 2 open positions for front-end software engineers at Sandgrid. If you guys are not familiar with us, we send email, it's transactional, so if you have an app, you want to send email, someone signs up, or you want to send marketing email, we create an editor, both a WYSIWYG, drag and drop, and a code editor, design content to send out to lists of millions of people. It's a very interesting job. I've been there for 3 years and say nothing but good things about it.
Preparing for a variety of technical and non-technical roles, these grant systems, maybe ink bracelets, breathalyzers, that sort of thing. If you have more questions, we'll talk to you.
Are you guys in Gun Barrel? Are you in Gun Barrel? No. Okay. I have a buddy that works at a place, I don't remember the name, but that I would either assume he works there or.
We're down in
Oh, never mind. There's more than one place that makes ankle bracelets here.
Whatever that says.
Anyone else have job announcements?
For like a middle senior, do solar. We do solar estimation, like commercial solar estimation.
Anyone else?
Where I work is a couple of different openings, full stack, and ASP and .NET. It's a company called Aspen Systems Incorporated. They make high performance computers. Like really high supercomputer components and stuff like
Thanks. Aspen Computers, they were looking for a full stack.
Full stack, there's actually a few different classic ASP and .NET, CRM programmer, PHP, MySQL, Java, full stack web application, graphic design.
It's all the jobs. Got it. Anyone else job announcements?
And I work at a company called Humble, we're an enterprise SaaS company downtown. We're looking for a couple senior platform backend full stack engineers. Talking about this for
I'm looking for at least a contract of maybe for a community wide developer. I split that up into talk to me.
Anyone else? Cool. Everyone that announced jobs, do you mind just standing up really quick? I know, mass game.
I wouldn't mind that.
Well, no, this is for everyone that is looking for a job, and these are people announcing jobs. You should find them afterwards. Cool. Who's our first speaker? Is it Mike?
I think so.
Oh, you're already set up. So.
Mike, you're up.
Let's do this.
What'd you try to do? HTML. Three years in February. So,
Yeah, there you go. In the meantime, while he fights with that cable, if anybody wants to get a refill on beer, that would be a great time to do it.
isn't yours having HTML? Yeah. What the fuck? Oh, it's a bear.
Don't say it with such disdain.
Oh my god, this is a MacBook Air. Oh my god, it's a Mac. It's really what it means.
Yeah, definitely. Got it in my car.
No, we can pass it.
Yeah, like you can't leave without a discount. Yes. Yeah. Ready? Mike Frazier, everybody. Hey, everybody. Hello. Including Austin in the back. Get together. Ooh, it's bad when I know your name. Exactly. The name of my talk here, it's a little glib. What to do when you don't care about finding items in an array. What do you actually care about? So there's a lot of ways to find things in an array. Kind of what to do when you don't care, or you don't know what to do. So a little bit about me, software engineer at ClickFox. I did Reactor Remote. I'm a former chemistry teacher. Recently picked up skateboarding. If you want to find me on Twitter, I'm at @AFrazier. On the aforementioned Denver Devs channel, I'm at Frazier. I also like to blog about stuff at mikedoescoding.com. Go to that, please. Make me feel good about this. Here we go. Nice. So there's I'm going to cover about 6, methods on the array prototype. Sort of looking at ES5 and then also ES6+. Depending on what you want to do, you would choose one of these methods, to kind of get what you need. Quick side note here. The examples that I'm doing, these are a little contrived, a little trivial. If you want to do something a little bit more complex, I do have a REPL with some examples in it. I'd encourage you to go check that out. It's on the resources slide. But really what I'm doing is I'm going to look for specific key value pairs if I'm trying to search for an object. If you want to compare object to object, there's a way to do that. Check the REPL. It's right there. It's at that bit.ly. All right, so you ready? Yes. All right, cool. In this case, let's just start out. I just care about getting back the index of the item that I'm looking for. Cool? Right, so let's just find that index. Using ES5, we have indexOf, lastIndexOf. Guess what? Returns the index of the item if you find it. Returns -1 if you don't. Considerations for this works really well for primitive values. Doesn't work so well for objects. Behind the scenes, it's using a strict equality check. So string 1, number 1, it won't find this, right? So you get a -1. Same thing with nan. Everybody knows nan is crazy. So keep that in mind as we kind of move forward here. Here's some examples. How many of you have used indexOf, lastIndexOf? Please give me. Sweet. All right. Here we go. So find the index of 3, we'll get 2. Find the last index of 3, we get 5. Find the index of 7. It's not in there, so we won't see that, so we get -1. And then if you have an array that you try to pass in the, if you have an array of objects and you try to pass in the object that you're looking for, you're not going to find that. We can go into that at the end. Somebody remember to ask that as a question. There might be a test. ES6+ gave us this nifty one called findIndex. This one takes in a comparator function, returns the index of the item that passes the comparator, returns -1 if it's not found. So kind of similar to index and lastIndexOf. Considerations, this returns the first index that passes the comparator. So if you have multiple items that all pass the comparator, it'll only give you back that first one. Visits every index in the array, even those without an assigned value. So if you have something, a large array, sparsely populated, it will go through all of them. So if you have something like that, could be a performance hit, just keep that in mind. And again, because nan is crazy, you'll have to explicitly somehow check for that in your comparator. So if we have this nice array here of a few objects, we want to find an item. The item color is blue, so we get back an index of 1. If we look for an ID where that's 4, we get -1. This also works on just regular primitives. Wanted an example of that. So again, you can run your strict or loose equality check on this depending on what suits your needs.
All right, so we know how to find the index. That's totally cool. What about if we just want that actual item back, right? Spent a lot of time finding these GIFs, so I need a little bit more than just a. So unfortunately, ES5 doesn't really give us an option for that. I know that some of you might be thinking that I'm forgetting or leaving something out there, and I'm doing that on purpose. You'll see it at the end. It's going to pay off. Don't worry. ES6 Plus gave us find. This gives us the found item that passes our comparator. So again, we get to write our own function here. Returns undefined if we don't have that item. Similar to find index, it gives you just the first item that passes the comparator. Visits every item in the array, so keep that in mind if you sparsely populate your arrays. And again, know how to check for NaN. So again, using the same array from the previous example, we can look for the item color where it is red, and we get back that exact item. So if you want to find that item to pass along to another function call, this might be a great one to use. Again, if you look for something that's not there, you get 4. It is 4, so it's undefined. And it also works on primitive. So it's all good. This is like a great thing to use. So you can find the index, we can find the item. I just want to know if it's actually in there. I don't care about getting it back. I don't care where it is. I just want to know, do I have it? Good news is we've got a few ways that we can do that. ES5 gives us sum, returns true or false for an item that passes the comparator. If you like functional programming, here you go. As soon as it finds a truthy value, your comparator returns something truthy, it stops the loop. So it doesn't have to check the remaining however many. It'll just say, this is true, so here you go. Unlike find and find index, this will skip over indices without assigned values. Sparsely populated array, some might be your go-to here. There was one of the considerations that I saw when I was going through the MDN page, and this is something that I don't know how it would happen. If you have an idea, please talk to me at the end. But if you somehow invoke some, start changing values, adding indices, deleting indices, somehow it won't care about any of that. It will just use whatever was invoked at that time. I don't know how you would do that. Please let me know. So again, I just want to know, is there an item in here where the color is red? Comes back true. Is there an ID of 4? That comes back false. And again, works on primitives just to make sure that we're covering all of our bases here. ES6 Plus gave us something really cool. It gave us includes. And this one is really, really sweet, except for the same value 0 thing, which blew my mind. Again, returns true or false for finding an item in there. It uses the same value 0 algorithm, which is kind of like strict, but not really, because it also finds NaN, and positive 0 and negative 0 are the same. Same value 0, right? I included a link to that in the resources. Read up on it. It's a fascinating read. Considerations works really well for primitives. Objects, not so much, as we've seen. So our array includes 3. It's at index 2. Doesn't include 7. Includes NaN. Wanted to make sure that I threw that example in there. Does it include an object with an ID of 2? False. Kind of seems a little weird, but again, talk to me at the end, or bring it up as a question. Please. I told you it'd pay off, but like Mike, what about filter or reduce? Actually, I just want to use reduce because I'm that type of guy. That's really great. Filter, it's available in ES5, gives you the array of items that pass your comparator. Gives you an empty array if nothing is there or nothing passes. But guess what? You have another array of items that you're going to have to deal with. So keep that in mind if that's really what you want. I want to filter out one item. to put it in an array, you can just use finds. And again, you have to check for name. Reduce, we also have an ES5, and guess what? You can get whatever the hell you want back from this. Really, the only limitation is your imagination, but you also have to check for name. But like, what about performance? Just talk about that. You're at the wrong talk. I'll level with you. That might be, a good topic for a future talk. Really kind of profiling the multiple methods, and if you've been paying attention, there is a lot of overlap between all of the different methods. Sometimes it's, is this comparator, sparsely populated array, whatever it might be. So is it better to use one of the baked-in methods? Is it better to just use a native for loop? That all kind of depends on what you sort of want. So, in conclusion, make sure that you can just find the item that you need, find what you want out of your array. So find your purpose. Life finds a way, and as creepy as this one is, you will always be able to find exactly what you need in your arrays. Thank you. So what questions do you have?
I'm going to take the clickbait here and ask about.
I think someone else has a question.
Yeah, I just said it.
Yeah, go on.
So this is an issue I ran into recently,
Yeah.
and I didn't know how to solve it. Why doesn't it include work with objects?
Yes.
He's so happy there.
I am so excited for this. You have no idea. I spent so much time trying to get this ready.
Now I think she's a plant.
I really am not.
Oh, we've never met before, isn't that right? All right, so let's just run this. So you're going to see a whole bunch of stuff that shows up here. The one that we're really interested in is array 2 and array 3. So with array 2, throwing in these different objects into this array, and then we checked indexOf and finds. I guess I didn't do includes. Well, so anyway, so when you are if we do something like this, I guess it's in example 3. This is calling new object right behind the scenes. So we're getting a new object here, a new spot in memory. If I were to call array 3 includes now another object like that behind the scenes that's calling new object, a new spot in memory. So the spot that's in memory here, the diamond versus the one that I'm calling in my includes, they're two different pointers. So those are not the same. But if you call indexOf with diamond, that is true. It's giving us 8. And if you call includes with that same reference to the object in memory, 8. Thank you. Yeah. All right, what else?
What's your take on an array of objects using object keys to
An array of objects and then doing object keys?
Yeah.
Doesn't that just give you the indices of the array?
Like search for your item of that original object.
I don't think I understand.
I'm explaining it poorly. I was curious if you use that to loop over to find a certain
I have not.
object key value.
I have not. Let's talk after this.
Right.
It works. It does.
Maybe just use find.
Well, then you can.
I've got a whole bunch of examples here that you can use. Have you considered any of these 6? Okay, anyway. Anything else? All right, thank you very much.
Cool. Next up is Matt Cooper. We did this talk is called 8-minute Auth.
Yeah. One thing we should mention when there's so many first timers here is that usually we do the format of like a short talk and a long talk. And then today we decided, well, screw it, we're just gonna do a bunch of long talks. So, sorry, it was a short talk. Yeah. Otherwise, we'll be here until it'll be
That's what happens when we forget to call for talks.
yeah. No, but it's good. So we have 4 separate, less than 10-minute talks. So yeah. So it's a different format we do every night. That was supposed to. Anyway, just kind of put that out there. So you guys, like, the first time it's like, wow, there's a lot of people who speak here.
So also, like, if anybody wants to give a talk, feel free to reach out to us on your meetup group, Denver Devs, whatever name of social media, and you can probably find us on there. But definitely, if you're new and don't want to, like, you know, just curious about giving a talk, like, doing the short talk is a great way of getting into it because it's like 5 to 10 minutes. So you can easily ramble on about something. So, yeah, definitely. Always looking for talks, so please reach out to us.
Cool.
Let's do it.
Hey guys, I'm Matt Cooper. I'm a developer here in Denver. Thanks for letting me talk for a second. Gonna give a quick talk about Firebase, Auth, and real-time listeners. So this is very much sort of a awareness-raising informational session more than a deep dive. Like we said, we got kind of less than 10 minutes here. So I've sort of been saying it's like a cooking show where you show the ingredients and you open the oven and here comes the final product. So that's what we're getting today. Also, shameless plug here. This is a note from my future employer. Wow, we're really glad we hired Matt. He's super awesome. So looking for some full-time work, contract work. Let me know if you think I'm cool, this talk's cool. We should talk. So who in here works on a regular basis or has worked with Auth before? Kind of everybody. Who loves working with Auth? All right, cool. So this is sort of how I feel. You know, you check in at Hell Hotel, you never check out. Hopefully at the end of this, you'll at least know there's an option that you can do this. Tell your friends you're working really hard, but maybe you've gone on vacation. So we're going to talk about some of the Firebase suite. Who's familiar with Firebase at a high level? Who uses Firebase regularly? Cool. So I love it. I'm a huge Firebase evangelist. Today we're going to talk about some of the authentication features, Cloud Firestore, which is a real-time NoSQL document database. Super cool. And we're going to talk about hosting for just a sec as well. So Firebase has a ton of auth options. Sort of your classic email password. You can do anonymous logins. I don't really get that yet. Google, Facebook, Twitter, GitHub. We're going to focus on Google today. A lot of really nice out-of-the-box features that allow for different sign-in flows. You can link accounts across different providers. You can get single-tap sign-in. There's some localized UIs that provide language support for like 40 different languages out of the box. And it also provides transactional emails. So sort of, hey, thanks for signing up, confirm your identity, password resets, all that kind of stuff. Super cool. Can you guys see that okay? Too far? Too white? Both? Oh, let's go the wrong way. Okay. So the project we're going to show today is sort of your typical create React app. Boilerplate create React app, boilerplate Redux, probably overkill for demonstration purposes, but that's where we are. So how do I get Firebase into my project? Super simple. Whether you're a Yarn or NPM person, just install it. You're going to import the dependencies, and then you're going to import Firebase Firebase Auth from Firebase. You also, what we're going to be working with too is the namespace. So all of the namespace Auth, so all of the methods you need to interact with Author here. And like I said, we're going to be using Google Auth today. So you're just creating a new instance of Firebase Google Auth provider. And there's different methods that you can call. So we're going to be working with the sign in with pop-up. There's a sign in with redirect. You can create your own custom flows, all those kinds of things. And then also auth.signout is what we'll be using. So whenever you call this method, it is going to return an object. It's going to be the user object that's populated, or it's going to be null. And so it returns a promise. And so like we saw before, it's returning a promise. You can only resolve that once. So if you're interested in what's happening on auth state change, this is a listener function that you can call. So anytime auth state change happens, the callback gets fired. And again, it's going to populate a user object, or it's going to return null. And so I know that's kind of abstract, so let's take a look at how this looks in some code. All right, so people pretty familiar with React, some React, no React, generally React, cool. All right, so just to show what's going on, pretty typical stuff. So we're bringing in Firebase, we're bringing in React, we're using Thunk and semantic UI for some really simple UI features. And this is your typical Firebase JS file. And so all the things we walked through, you're importing Firebase, we're importing Firebase Auth, we're importing a config file. And so the config file is really nothing more than your API key, your auth domain. All of this stuff is provided for you in the Firebase docs, which are really, really, really good. So we're creating an instance of the app, Firestore, and then exporting some of these functions. So we have access to Auth, Google Auth Provider, and then down here, the app that I'm going to show you guys has a user ref. So when you log into the app, it's going to authenticate you with Google, and then it's going to put the user objects provided from Google into the database. So in this case, it's going to take your email, it's going to take your display photo, and populate it. So in a minute, if I ask you to sign in the app, if you don't want me or anyone here to see your email address or your photo, don't sign in. And so this is really it. So how does this work behind the scenes? So this is an action in Redux, and so this is the listening for auth changes. And so whenever the auth state changes in Firebase, it's going to initiate this callback. And so what we're looking for here on line 35 is there a user object? If there is, we're going to parse out the UID, the photo URL, display name, and email. We're going to dispatch signed in with that data. And then on line 43, we're adding that to the database. And so what that's basically saying is, hey, check my user refs. The ID of the document is the user email in this case. So .get says basically, does it exist? And then if it doesn't exist, we're going to populate it. And then on sign out, it actually deletes the information from the database. And we'll show that in just a second. And then the conditional here on 52 or 51, if there's no user object, it's returned null. You've signed out. And so we're going to dispatch a signed out function. So the way I have this structured in this particular app, I'm importing the actions on line 6 and 7. My Redux actions, and then calling them straight from store.dispatch on 11 and 12. So at the top level of my app, any changes that happen, it's going to be immediately dispatched to the store. And so here we are. That's me signed in. I'm going to demonstrate real fast what's happening here. So on the right, this is the Google Firestore dashboard. And so you can see users. The user document is my name. I'm signed in. If I sign out, I disappear, I delete from the database. If I sign in, it's going to, when the window's small, I know we called sign in with pop-up, but when the window's small, it actually opens a new tab. So you're gonna sign in here, cool, I'm populated back in the database. And so if you guys have a moment and you wanna humor me, take out your phone and go to fcreact888.firebaseapp.com. And as soon as you sign in there, so we've got a new person that signed in, there's a picture, we've got new people added to the database. When the database changes, you get green for an ad. If you sign out, it deletes. The database turns red for a moment to show you that it's changing, and then your photo is going to go away. This is all without really making API calls. It's just the callback function is being fired on auth state change. And that's it. That's all I got. That was less than 8 minutes, I think. Cool. 8 minutes minus 2 seconds.
Nice.
Any quick questions in 30 seconds, a minute?
You take a couple minutes for questions.
Cool.
What is the plugin you have at VS Code that's showing package size?
Good question. I'll have to look. Come see me afterwards. I'll get it for you.
Now, is there anything that we should be aware of going further in the whatnot, using Firebase? Is it just
Yeah, so the way I typically handle it is just passing around the UID. All of the authentication happens, depends on what you're authing. So auth rules for the Firestore actually happen. Let's see, I can show you here. And so all of your API keys are public, actually in your index HTML. Yep. And so right here, it's too big. So this is actually, it says, hey, your security rules aren't defined. So right now it's all reads, all writes. Anybody can do anything to my database. And so you're passing all those rules here, and that's where you handle your security features. Yeah.
within the configs, you had an API token there?
Yeah.
Is that, I guess Firebase is giving that to you so you can talk back and forth? If this is a front end app, is there any way that you know of like really locking that down and making sure that that's not exposed when you're making network requests? And
yeah, so I think it's a key that's always publicly exposed, and so you have to lock it down on the back end, and all of your logic for security comes in here. There's no way to hide it. I know a lot of people are using secure tokens or have .env files to protect that stuff. Firebase is the other side of the equation. It's all public all the time, and so you've got to lock it down here.
so your session expires, does it automatically take that?
Yeah, so there's actually, I think, 3 different session settings that you can have. Sort of a persistent state, so the user has to actually log out. You can do like on close tab, it closes, and you can set all those in sort of one line of code. Pretty cool. And there's tons of out-of-the-box features too with Auth in just a couple seconds here. So these are all the people that have signed into the app. You also get like limitations. So, hey, I don't want more than 100 people a minute to sign up, or 100 people a day. You can say, hey, is this email signed up for another account, to merge accounts, all stuff that's free out of the box. And the free tier of Firebase is really cool. It's really good. Thanks, guys. Thanks very much.
All right, halfway done. This is a great time to get another round of beers. I highly suggest it. You're gonna need it for some DevTools live coding.
She said live coding, that's when
Everyone's like, oh, okay. Where do you keep the whiskey?
GYO.
Great. Target audience. Go get that for the win. All right, are we all refilled? Let's do it. The good thing about doing just a bunch of lightning talks is that we'll be done early, and then we drink more beer and just chat after. Okay, let's do it. All right, so hello everybody. Thanks for coming out today. So my name is Guillermo. I guess I should start. That's the introduction slide. We'll get to there. Quick show of hands. Who here has heard of conditional breakpoints? Okay, leave your hand up. Come on, hold on. Don't be afraid. Your arms aren't that heavy. All right. What? Who here? Of the people that have your hands up, how many use them on a regular basis? Okay, and then of those 2 or 3 left, how many think that it's awesome? Oh, and more hands went up they weren't even using. Fantastic. Yeah. So great. So target audience. I'm going to show a lot of you about conditional breakpoints today. You know what? I didn't even start my timer. Go. I'm gonna show you guys about conditional breakpoints today, why I think they're awesome. I use them every day, and they're really, really cool. Last year, I gave a talk diving a little bit deeper into some Chrome dev tools, and we really lightly talked about conditional breakpoints. I really wish we'd had some more time for it because it's a really powerful feature. So that's what we're gonna do today for about 10 minutes. So my name is Guillermo. I'm a software developer at Volt. There's my email address, and you can contact me on Denver Devs as well. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right in. So what we're going to look at is a little app I built a while back. This might look familiar, Matt. So basically, it's just an array of vehicles that come back, right? And so for the purposes of this demonstration, it's actually not important at all how this whole thing is wired up and what's going on in the background of the architecture of the application. What's important that we are going to look at is the dev tools themselves that we're going to use to debug a defect that was reported in the field about what's going on. Okay, so this is just a list of vehicles. We can sort them by different things, and we'll see that when we sort them by year, we have some bad data that's coming in, right? So let's go ahead and open our debugger. Hey, what's new in Chrome 68?
This is not lightning, Todd. This was your interview.
Yeah, well, I thought it'd be.
I learned about conditional breakpoints.
That's why I was like, oh, if Matt doesn't know about conditional breakpoints, this would be a good thing to talk about. So, okay, so that being said, assuming that you're familiar with the code base, right? This is just like sugar in your debugging tools with a code base you're familiar with especially. So since I have been working this for a while, I know that the table actions is where we receive back the information of the vehicles, right? And so we're thinking, well, something's probably gonna be coming back from the data that is corrupt that we weren't accounting for, right? So if we just set a, can I enhance this? Fantastic. If we set a breakpoint here and say, all right, let's take a look at the vehicles that come back. We're gonna refresh. In our watch section here, we'll just say vehicles. So we can see in real time what those are. Okay, so there's 2,000 of them almost that are coming back, right? So traditional debugging, we'd set another breakpoint in here, and then we would look at each of those posts that comes in, and let's just start stepping through them until we find the one that's broken, right? That would probably take you a while, right? And it's maddening to try and do that. So the other thing that you could do is, okay, well, if we're gonna try and think a little bit bigger than that, we say, all right, well, let's go back up in the call stack to where we were. And here we have all of our things broken up to little array segments. So you can kind of look at a glance and see if any of them are broken. But again, that would kind of take forever. So here we have then conditional breakpoints to the rescue. So if we take a traditional breakpoint and we right click it and we go to edit breakpoint, this is where the magic happens. This breakpoint will only stop if this expression is true, right? So what's gonna happen is we're gonna write an expression here. When that expression is evaluated, if that expression's value is truthy, then we'll actually stop at that point. So we say, okay, we know that we had some bad data coming in. It looked like maybe we don't have, maybe one of the posts is not coming in at all. So let's just stop and say, if we don't have a post, let's stop here, right? So let's go ahead and refresh again. And boom, we stopped right there where there was no post. And we see here's one of our posts that comes in as null, right? We're like, oh, perfect. So we know that we've got a post that's coming in as null. You know, that is a bad type of data that we have coming in. So let's see if we can catch the second one. And we don't, right? And which is weird because we knew that we had 2 of them with issues. So let's build on this a little bit and say, okay, well, maybe it's not just a post. Maybe it's the post doesn't have a year, right? Let's see what that looks like, because we knew before that this year was blank. Good. So let's refresh again. And we see here's our null post that we knew about. And if we go to the next one, oh, perfect, here we go. So we're getting back just an empty object, which has nothing in it, right? And so now, with a little bit of debugging, instead of stepping through 2,000 times, right, we just quickly see, like, okay, so these are 2 cases that are broken. And so we can just go back to our code. We write a little bit of defensive code saying, okay, if it's null or if it's missing a certain property, then let's either not include it or let's build like a default value for it or something like that and show that, right? So that's pretty cool. Another thing, though, that we can build on this is, let's say you're in a situation where you don't want the breakpoint to be stopping every time, but you do want to do some kind of a conditional check, right? And let's build on top of that and say, well, what if you're debugging remotely, right? What if you're not doing local development? If it's a deployed machine somewhere and you're having a defect reported either by a QA team that's remote or a user somewhere off-site, and you can't do things like just writing in console logs and stuff into the code because you don't have access to it, right? To elaborate a little bit on the first point that I was saying there, for example, like in our application, if you pause it for too long, then there's certain refresh rules and things we have in place, right? So if you're stopped and you're looking at it for too long, the whole page refreshes. So maybe you wanted to see things on the fly as they're flying in. Here's where conditional breakpoints get really cool. Because this breakpoint will only stop if this expression is true, that means that every time it goes through, it is actually going to execute this expression. And this can be any valid JavaScript, right? So we can write a ternary here and say, let's check for either of these things. Let's write a ternary and say, if either of those are true, let's console.log, this post has issues. And we'll put the post itself, okay? And then we'll say, if that's true, do this. If not, we'll just do nothing. And then the cool thing is, using the comma operator, we can have several things happen on the same line. And so what we do is, remember, if this returns a truthy value, it'll stop in place. If it doesn't, it won't. So since we're saying, after you do whatever this is, return false, it'll always return false. It'll never stop at the breakpoint, but it will evaluate this expression every time, which means it'll run this and console log it if we need it to. So if I open the console and we refresh again, here we go. Here's our post has issues with the null, and then the other one with the open object, okay? So again, this is really, really useful if you're debugging remote servers, or if you're in a situation where you don't want it to stop on the fly, but you want to add some console logging without being able to, or they're having to, jump back into your code. The last thing I'll show you, which this one I just think is like really, really cool. Last little enhancement on here is, think about this for a second. If this expression is going to run every time, and it can be any valid JavaScript, right? Then you're not limited just to things like console logging. You can actually change the value of these variables on the fly, right? So let's say, for example, that we say, okay, again, I'm debugging a remote server. I don't have access to change that code from where I'm at locally, but I have a thought that if the data is coming in poorly and we can like format it in some way, I think that if it goes all the way through, we should be okay. And I want to test this theory. What I can do is say, okay, if it meets either of these conditions, let's just say the post is equal to a new object. We say the make will be a horse drawn, and then the model can be a carriage. Is that how you spell carriage, or icon first? And then the year, we'll give it 1776 or something. So if we do that, let's try and run this JavaScript and see what happens, right? So if we refresh, it doesn't stop. We write nothing to the console. If we go back to our page, here's our 1776 horse-drawn carriage. We actually manipulated the data on the fly, right? Yeah, pretty cool, right? So, so just to recap what we just looked at, right? I think the absolutely most interesting and useful part of conditional breakpoints is this logic, where instead of stepping through 2,000 times, you stop it whenever it is as the issue that you want. Again, another one I use regularly is this ability where we can do the console logging that we talked about. And the one here where we modify the value, that's just kind of like just fun, just something to point out, think about. And also when you're making your servers, like your code can get manipulated on the fly. So that's it. That's all I wanted to show you guys. Let's go back to here. Oh, come on. Let's do that. Oh, because I enhanced, that's why. Okay. So great. So that's me. Additional material that we'll post. There's a really good article that talks through a lot of these things. You should check it out for some additional examples. Yeah, my name's Guillermo. Your talk on Firebase Auth was super cool. My friend and I built an app called Campo Libre on the App Store where you can find, save, and upload campsites all across Colorado. And our backend is Firebase Auth and database. So highly recommend playing with Firebase. That part is super cool. Thanks, guys. Yeah.
When do you guys support Android?
I know. That's gonna be like, so what I decided was like, this is a really good like winter project because I can't be camping. So I'll work on Android support this winter. But yes, if you have an iPhone, download our app.
You used any of the progressive app features in Firebase to consider using progressive app versus native app?
No, I mean, we wanted to use a native app just because this is what we wanted to do, what we built in React Native. Yeah, it's super cool. I mean, the auth stuff and everything out of the box is fantastic. And anyway, yeah, we can talk more about that after. Yes, it's very, very cool. Yeah. That's a really good question. I don't know. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, so that I showed sort of as like a, hey, this is cool, but I haven't tested the limitations of what kind of sandboxing Google does there.
Like, what's the scope on it?
Well, it's
So like just that line.
no, it is the current scope. So if you look at it, like I guess for what you saw, I was looking at post because we were on post, but anything that was available to the scope at that point in the function would have been accessible. Oh, and actually, sorry, and to add to that point, a reason that I know that is because another cool thing that I didn't show that you could do with conditional breakpoints is like, let's say you want to keep track of the latest state of some variable, and you're moving between a lot of different components in your app, right? You can do like a window like global variable equal to something, and then put conditional breakpoints in a few different places. And anytime those things are triggered, you can overwrite that variable. And then at any point, if you console log that window variable, you'll have it based on the JavaScript that you purely just wrote in your debugging. Yeah. Yeah. Not. Oh shit! I was gonna say, and Garrett wasn't here, so I forgot. I had a requisite thing that I was gonna say at the very beginning. That yes, conditional breakpoints are available in lots of other browsers, including Firefox. I just haven't played with them myself, so I was showing the one that I'm comfortable with, which is DevTools in Chrome. But yes. Any other questions? Sweet. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
So this is Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
I was gonna say your last name.
Houdelet.
Yeah. Good old French last name.
Whoops.
So glad.
Several people.
I see my gist is still there.
Yeah, and even the broken data. Because when I pulled it, okay, so now I'm like deliberately some data. And they're like, oh, never mind, it's not broken up. So it's perfect. Save the large one.
Actually just asked you for that URL because I needed something to
We have some of it broken.
Oh, that's cute. This is how we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of the horrible.
Oh, yeah, no, USB-C? Yeah.
This one.
It's like Indiana Jones. It's like the
That
most,
one looks broken, but.
the most simple looking one is the one you have to choose. Oh, well, that's good. Really? Oh, man.
So, yeah,
We should buy that up. This happens every month.
No, I think it might be good.
As long as you don't touch it at all.
so short it.
You want to try hers?
Oh. Hey.
Trying. All right.
Hey. If I'm shocked by this afternoon and I don't make it through this presentation, just like call my mom. Please.
I have bad news about Chris's presentation.
Yeah, he didn't make it. And that's why you don't buy one of these MacBooks, because they're terrible. Yeah, so I'm Chris. I'm a developer at Choozle. That's my next slide, but let's just say it here. And my talk's on evolving UI components. So it's just something I've helped to build out a UI component library in the last year and feel like I've got a couple nuggets, maybe of wisdom, that will be helpful for you. And I obviously picked Bulbasaur to be on my title slide because that's like the only Pokemon you should choose from the get-go. If you pick like Charmander, I don't respect you. So yeah, I work at Choozle. I do a lot of React, a lot of front end there. Choozle, like we're a Denver-based startup doing programmatic advertising stuff, which is really cool. And so yeah, it's 2018. We're all doing reusable components in JavaScript. Everyone, I feel like a lot of people are building up reusable component libraries. Like it's like the hot new thing we're all trying to do. By the way, I'm not an expert. This is my experience. There's so many resources out there on this topic. There's like 1 million people you can follow on Twitter. There's like 1,000 free paid courses on this stuff. Like there's so much good content out here. And I just wanted to share what my experience has been building out the component library that I work in. So I really wanted to think about this idea of like evolution because it's this idea of something developing gradually. I think starting out with something that's relatively simple and then finding ways to evolve, extend, or iterate on that is like a really key component of how I'm approaching developing any sort of UI component that I'm working with. And just an FYI, I work in React every single day, so the examples are going to be in React. So if you're doing Angular, Ember, or if you're doing Vue, like, I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. So these are my 3 basic tenets of evolving UI components. So number 1 is just to start with really, really simple initial designs. Secondly is develop and create like a development environment and development culture with other people that you're working with, so that whenever you're working on a component, you're thinking about how this is going to impact other people on your team. I think that's like communication is key, and it's really helped my team take on using these components and doing it in a really successful way. And then the last part is like intelligently extend what you're working on and iterate, and don't be lazy, because it's so easy to be lazy, but you're gonna like really regret it, and it's not gonna be a good time. So simplifying initial designs. This is like literally the worst code I've ever written in my entire life, so everyone gets to see it. So get pumped for that, because it's a doozy. This is the first job or task that I ever had at my first company. We had all these features coming down the pipeline. They're like, Chris, like, you're so smart. You're here. Like, let's go. Why don't you build out a table that could be used in any situation that could ever possibly exist in a web browser? And I was like, yeah, I can do this. And so I built this heinous, disgusting, gigantic component that this is the API to use it. Like, it's the most terrible thing ever. Like, I'm passing in the data down here. Oh wait, the unformatted data is up there. Like, let's pass in the data twice. Like, that makes sense. So keep these designs initially as simple as possible. Build only what you need now. Don't think about what you need next week. Don't think about what you might need tomorrow. You're literally just gonna shoot yourself in the foot by doing that. I'd say get comfortable saying no to stakeholders, designers, like random people coming up to you on the street. Just like get really good at saying, no, I'm not building that right now. I'm not gonna work on that because I really need to like work on what I'm doing here and like really lock down this initial design. If you make a terrible API for your component, people are not gonna pick it up and use it. It's gonna be impossible. They're gonna have to take 20 minutes to understand what that thing does. And no one has time or wants to do that. They're just gonna build it on their own anyways. And then you don't have a reusable component library. You just have like 2 people doing their own thing and not talking to each other, which isn't fun. And the question that I ask myself all the time is, can someone who hasn't worked on the initial design that I put out there easily pick up this component and implement it? Because if they can't, then there's really no point in having made that in the first place. And you're just gonna run into trouble. Secondly is to just develop with your team in mind. So I work on, we right now have 3 kind of like engineering teams working on 3 different features. Excuse me, wow, that's a beer burp. At a single time. And what I've come to understand is that interface documentation and constant communication on what you're building is so important for you to be able to like scale together as a team. Also, fully utilizing TypeScript, like get into it, it's 2018. And declaring your prop types in either React or Vue is gonna be key in helping other people understand what you built and how to use it. So then this is like a newer component that we built out. This is in our UI library that we have hosted that everyone in the company has access to. But it's just so much easier to pick up something like this where like your prompts are easily declared. You can tell what types they are, what the default is, if they're required or not. Like building this sort of documentation is just so helpful in communicating exactly how people are gonna be able to pick up and run with the components that you're building. And literally, this is totally just pulled from Corey House's brilliant JavaScript, like mastermind guru, like A-list celeb. And he has this course on Pluralsight, and literally we like pulled everything from it. It's been really helpful, and it's created this really easy framework that we've been able to extend over time. So I'd say check that out. And even if you're not doing React, a lot of just the basics there in terms of like deploying something to npm or whatever kind of hosting service you want. It's super helpful and super easy. And then just creating time and mechanisms to share the components you've created and advocate for what you've made. I think that's like super duper important. So we meet every week, all 3 teams that are working within this component library. We get together, we talk about what we're building in that library. We talk about what we need that week, what we might need a week from there, just to give people space to like communicate what they're working on and be able to find connections between those things and what's in the library. I feel like just talking about what you built is really helpful. And I think sometimes you just really need to like advocate for what you built and like almost force people to use it. So like rejecting people's code reviews or like leaving comments on them is a really good way to be like, hey, I built that like a month ago, you should use that. So do that. And then intelligently extend and iterate, same thing. I found that it's really important to gradually extend your components as new use cases arrive. Once again, like don't start in the beginning with the person from the cart or whatever, trying to do 25 things at once. It's just not gonna be helpful. Things to avoid, obviously, like limiting the size of the API. If someone can't like take an elegantly designed component with just a few props, pick it up and use it, like I think it's gonna be difficult for people to be able to run with that. I'd say like don't do something like this where and I've definitely done this before. You have a component that like is gonna output bicycles, but then there's a special use case or a race condition you gotta capture, and then 1 out of 100 times you like output some Doritos. No one is gonna like people are gonna pick it up and use it and then be like, why the hell do I have Doritos right here? And that's not gonna be fun for anybody. So having like conditional logic and like outputting random other stuff in a component, like that's not cute. It's not gonna work. Using enums to avoid impossible state. I feel like this has been something that's been really helpful. So rather than just passing booleans as like red is true, green is true, 1 seat is true, or 2 seat is true to a bicycle, having them be like strict enums is just super helpful in eliminating impossible state where you're trying to create a bicycle that's red and green or has 1 seat and 2 seat. Like that's just a really simple pattern that's been really effective. And then, yeah, finally, we took that table that I'd been working in the beginning. We really limited its use case. We've got a few different tables now. And now that table happily lives in production where it belongs. Yeah, I think just take time to do things right and make sure that you're communicating with anybody that's involved in the project you're building. And yeah, it's not too hard to get going with the component library. And I hope everyone can take it on and make it happen. It's good stuff. Thanks.
Have you dealt with versioning components at all?
No, but we definitely need to. Yeah, I think versioning of a library that you're building is like difficult in and of itself, but we haven't like versioned specific components and like released them at different times or have them accessible through different like versions of the entire library.
So if you have multiple consumers that component, you just want to make sure that everyone's on board with an
Yeah,
upgrade of it.
exactly. Yeah, and these are all going to one single
Monorepo.
exactly. So that hasn't been a concern that we've had, but that definitely would change some things up or like definitely add some technical complexity to like our entire development of it for sure. I wish I had a great answer on that for you, but I don't. Yeah.
Are your components just for choosel, or do you open source them?
Just for choosel. Yeah, we haven't open sourced them quite yet. Yeah, that would be awesome actually. I just like got nervous when you said that. Like, I was like, wait, like open source my components? That feels crazy. But no, we should definitely look into that. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
This is kind of a general question. I was curious if time with your talk.
Yeah, that is not a pattern that I've like used a ton. That's like a place that I definitely have a knowledge gap. But I think that would be rad too.
makes it harder to reuse.
Yeah.
And that's why they ask that same question. Like,
Yeah.
do that if you want to like animate this one thing, they have to make all this custom code to like use it with a rapid.
Yeah.
I don't know. I found it not. So I'm curious what.
Yeah, I guess I found like the entire push to like make reusable components, like it's just like the buzzword, or has been for like the last like year and a half, 2 years maybe. And I see like more value in like not doing that. Like I think you can expend a lot of development energy in trying to create something to like capture all these use cases, where it might be a much more elegant solution to like hard code in some choices and just limit the extendability of a component in a lot of ways. Like I feel like I was like super loosey-goosey, a reusable cheerleader at first, and now I'm like dialing that excitement in and just seeing that like focusing that has been really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was exactly my question. Sort of where's your line in the sand for whichever reusable component, or like now that you got super complicated and it's time to have a new component?
Yeah. It's an art. Like I wish I had the best answer. Like I hope this talk opened up that kind of can of worms, because there's that whole spectrum of like limiting choice, and then just like cluttering an API with stuff that, and then like almost diluting the first use case or like primary function of the component, which I see as like a definite problem. So I'm definitely open to more conversation about this. I think like there is so much information out there on this topic, and these are just some things that I've learned on my journey to make a reusable component library. Yeah.
Are there any like rules of thumb or things that really stick out at you as a threshold for okay, now we need to split it into separate components?
I think honestly for me it's like really it comes down to like the people that you're working with. Like if someone is confused and like unsure about how to implement something, I think then that's a point of like, okay, Chris, like you kind of went off the deep end with this one and like have like way too many prompts, or like trying to configure too many things. So I think, and that's so different for every single person in this room and every single project that you're on, is like who's working, who's going to be consuming what you're building, and how can you make that experience as seamless and like elegant as possible. Cool. Thanks, everyone.
That's all the talks we had for tonight. So there's still some more beer. There might be a slice of pizza or two left. Feel free to hang out, nerd out. Thanks.
People who submitted for JavaScript land, come up and we'll see who gets the front members things, front end masters things. Thanks, guys.